Have you ever felt a sharp sting from someone you trusted, only to watch them move on as if nothing ever happened? That sudden shock, that confusion that grips your chest, is more common than you think, yet it feels unbearably isolating when it happens to you. Your mind replays the moment endlessly, questioning every word, every gesture, searching desperately for meaning in a reality that feels senseless. You try to understand, to rationalize, to grasp why someone you cared about could wound you so deeply and yet carry on, as if the world hadn't shifted beneath your feet. That experience shakes more than just your trust. It rattles the foundation of your sense of safety and your belief in fairness. It leaves you vulnerable, raw, and exposed, staring at someone who seems untouched by the chaos they caused. And in that silence, in that cold indifference, your emotions scream, demanding recognition, demanding answers, demanding justice. You feel small, unseen, and unheard, even though your pain is real, vivid, and undeniable. It's easy to get lost in the whirlwind of confusion, to believe that the way they act reflects your value. You might catch yourself thinking, maybe I overreacted, or perhaps I did something wrong, and your mind turns on itself, creating a loop of self-blame that eats away your confidence. But here's the truth that can shift everything. The way someone else behaves does not define your worth. Their indifference is a reflection of them, not a measure of you. You have been hurt, yes, but hurt is not weakness. Feeling the sting of betrayal is proof that you are alive, that you care, and that your heart has depth and capacity. The intensity of your emotions signals that you are human, and humans are meant to feel, to struggle, and ultimately to rise. Recognizing this is the first step toward reclaiming your power. The pain is a teacher disguised in disguise, showing you where your boundaries need strength, where your expectations of others require clarity, and where your courage can grow. Staying here, fully present with your feelings, gives you the chance to transform this wound into insight. The moment you begin to see the truth, that their actions do not define your life, you begin to release their control over your heart. You begin to understand that the freedom you crave, the peace you deserve, has always been within your reach. If you stay with this journey, you will discover something extraordinary. Every hurt, every moment of disbelief, every time someone acts as if nothing happened, is an opportunity to grow stronger, to sharpen your clarity, and to embrace a life where your happiness is self-determined, not borrowed from those who cannot see your worth. You are about to learn how to reclaim that power step by step and emerge from the shadow of their indifference into a space where your strength shines brighter than any hurt. This is the beginning of that journey, and the reward for facing it is nothing less than freedom, resilience, and the unwavering knowledge that you are enough. Why do we keep asking ourselves questions that have no answers? Why do we turn over every word, every action, every glance, hoping to find a reason that will make the pain make sense? When someone hurts you and acts as if nothing happened, your mind instinctively searches for clarity, for fairness, for validation. It is a natural reaction, a desperate attempt to restore balance in a world that suddenly feels chaotic and unjust. You replay their words in your head, imagining conversations that never occurred, analyzing every subtle sign, trying to find some hidden truth that might explain their indifference. But what you are experiencing is not a flaw in you. It is the way your mind struggles to process the gap between expectation and reality, between the person you believed them to be and the person who has revealed their limitations. That gap can feel unbearable, and it is normal to feel trapped in a cycle of doubt and self-questioning. The danger lies in letting that cycle control you. Every question you cannot answer becomes a weight on your heart. Every moment of overthinking becomes a chain that holds you back from peace. You may find yourself asking, did I do something wrong? Was I not enough? And the mind's answers will twist and confuse, leading you to self-blame instead of clarity. Here is the truth. Their choices, their lack of recognition, their ability to move on as if nothing happened, reveal nothing about your worth. You are not flawed because someone else cannot honor your feelings or acknowledge the hurt they caused. Your value remains intact, untouched by their inability to see it. This is the first principle of reclaiming your emotional freedom, understanding that their behavior is theirs to own, not yours to carry. You have the power to reclaim the narrative of your life. The questions that have haunted you do not need answers from them. The peace you seek does not depend on their acknowledgement. When you stop searching for validation outside yourself, you create a space where clarity and strength can grow. Every thought that once drew you back into hurt can now be redirected toward understanding, resilience, and growth. You can choose where your mind lingers, and you can decide which thoughts deserve your energy. The energy you spend on confusion and doubt can instead fuel your inner power, building a foundation of self-trust and emotional independence that cannot be shaken by anyone else's indifference. Imagine the freedom of no longer being at the mercy of someone else's actions. Imagine waking up knowing that your worth is untouchable, that your peace is yours alone, and that the pain they cause is no longer a chain but a teacher. Each question that once haunted you now becomes a stepping stone towards self-mastery. Every moment of doubt an opportunity to deepen your awareness of your own strength. The answers you have been seeking were never in them, they were in you. By embracing this truth, you take the first step toward liberation. You step out of their shadow, reclaim your heart, and begin the journey to a life where you are the author of your emotions, the keeper of your peace, and the builder of your unshakable resilience. Have you noticed how their silence can cut deeper than their words ever could? When someone hurts you and acts as if nothing happened, it is not just the action itself. It is the absence of acknowledgment that leaves a wound so raw it pulses in every quiet moment. That calm indifference feels like a mirror held up to your pain, reflecting back a world that refuses to validate what you feel. Your mind screams for recognition, your heart aches for justice, and every fiber of your being resists the stark emptiness of being unseen. It is a heavy weight, a quiet violence that lingers long after the moment has passed. The psychological impact is profound because humans are wired for connection. When trust is broken and then ignored, the brain registers it as a threat, triggering stress, tension, and confusion. The body tightens, the chest aches, and even your thoughts become restless. You feel the sting not just in your emotions but in your very being, as if your reality has been questioned without permission. This is why understanding their indifference is critical. When someone acts as if nothing happened, it is a reflection of their limitations, not yours. Their avoidance is a mask that hides their inability to face accountability, their discomfort with conflict, or their lack of emotional awareness. Their behavior says nothing about your value. It says everything about their inability to hold space for another person's feelings. By internalizing this, you reclaim the perspective that has been stolen from you. You begin to see that the emptiness in their response is theirs to carry, not yours. This insight is the beginning of emotional liberation because it shifts the focus from seeking validation externally to building certainty internally. You cannot control their actions, but you can control your reaction. Each moment spent spinning in frustration, imagining reasons, or demanding acknowledgement from them is energy wasted. Energy that could be used to reinforce your boundaries, strengthen your self-respect, and anchor your emotional resilience. This is where true power lies, not in convincing someone to feel what they should feel, but in deciding how you will move forward regardless of their choices. You have the ability to reclaim your emotional territory, to refuse to let their indifference dictate the shape of your day, your thoughts, or your self-worth. Imagine feeling a weight lift as you stop chasing their recognition. Picture the calm that comes when you realize that their behavior is irrelevant to your value, that your peace is not conditional on their acknowledgement. Every heartbeat that once echoed with confusion can now pulse with strength. Every lingering thought of injustice can be transformed into clarity. You are free to create boundaries, cultivate self-love, and protect your heart. The absence of their recognition becomes not a void, but a doorway to inner power. You are not defined by their inability to see you. You are defined by the courage it takes to rise above, to honor your own feelings, and to insist on your own peace. When you understand this, their silence loses its hold, and you step into a space where your heart is untouchable, your mind unshakable, and your life fully yours to command. The pain of betrayal leaves a mark that goes beyond words. It is a weight carried silently, an invisible burden that can infiltrate every thought, every interaction, and every decision you make. When someone hurts you and pretends it never happened, the shock does not fade quickly. It lingers, creating a tension that keeps your mind restless and your heart guarded. This is because betrayal breaks the trust that forms the foundation of connection. Your brain interprets it as a threat, triggering a cascade of stress and uncertainty that can feel overwhelming. The more you dwell on it, the more your emotions tighten around the wound and the harder it becomes to move forward. Yet it is precisely here in this tension that the opportunity for transformation exists. Your pain, raw as it feels, can become the soil in which strength, resilience, and self-awareness grow. Understanding the depth of this pain allows you to confront it honestly rather than suppressing it. Emotional suppression prolongs suffering and keeps you trapped in cycles of confusion and anger. Acknowledging the hurt does not make you weak, it makes you courageous. It shows that you are willing to face discomfort, examine it, and use it as a catalyst for growth. When you allow yourself to feel fully, to observe the weight without judgment, you begin to reclaim control over your own mind. You recognize that the intensity of your feelings is not a flaw but a signal, proof that you are capable of profound empathy, that your heart has the capacity to care deeply, and that your spirit has the power to rise from this trial. Betrayal teaches an essential truth. You cannot control the actions of others, but you can choose how you respond. Holding on to anger, resentment, or self-doubt only strengthens the influence of someone who has already hurt you. Each moment spent replaying their actions or searching for explanations reinforces their hold on your emotional state. True power is claiming ownership of your reactions, deciding what thoughts and emotions deserve your energy. When you stop trying to make sense of their indifference, you begin to direct your focus inward, toward building resilience, setting clear boundaries, and cultivating a sense of self-worth that is independent of external validation. Imagine the liberation of no longer letting someone else dictate your emotional landscape. Picture the relief of redirecting the energy that once fueled pain into the construction of your own strength. Each heartbeat can shift from tension to courage, each thought from doubt to clarity. The betrayal does not define you. The indifference of others does not diminish your value. When you embrace this truth, you create a sanctuary within yourself that no external action can violate. Your strength grows, not by holding on to the past, but by mastering the present, reclaiming your heart, and standing firmly in the knowledge that you are more resilient, more powerful, and more whole than any hurt inflicted upon you. The weight of betrayal can feel like a constant pressure, pressing down on your chest, making every breath heavier, every thought louder. When someone hurts you and moves forward as if nothing happened, it is not just an emotional injury. It is a test of your resilience. Your mind struggles to reconcile the pain with the absence of acknowledgment, creating a storm of doubt, frustration, and disbelief. The body reacts to this tension, releasing stress hormones that intensify the feeling of helplessness. Yet within this physiological and emotional upheaval lies the key to transformation. Recognizing that this pain is not permanent, that it does not define your character or your future, is the first step toward reclaiming your power. The moment you see that their indifference is a reflection of their limitations, not your worth, you begin to shift from victimhood to self-mastery. Every hurtful action has a lesson embedded within it. The challenge is not in avoiding pain, because that is impossible, but in learning to extract clarity and strength from it. When you feel betrayed, it is natural to question yourself, to analyze every interaction, to wonder why you were treated in a way that seems unthinkable. This questioning is the mind-seeking balance, trying to restore a sense of order to a world that suddenly feels unjust. The critical realization is that the answers you seek externally may never come. They do not need to come from the person who caused the pain. The peace you long for has always been within your own grasp. By turning your focus inward, by observing your reactions, and by consciously choosing how to respond, you reclaim authority over your own emotions. You no longer allow someone else's failure to honor you, to dictate the trajectory of your life. This process of reclaiming emotional sovereignty requires courage. It requires acknowledging that while the hurt is real, it is not permanent, and it does not have the power to diminish your value unless you allow it to. The path forward is paved with intention, the intention to release what no longer serves you, the intention to set boundaries that protect your heart, and the intention to cultivate resilience that cannot be shaken by others' indifference. Every moment spent choosing clarity over confusion, strength over despair, and self-respect over resentment reinforces your inner fortitude. Each act of conscious awareness is a declaration that your life will not be defined by the actions of those who fail to see your worth. Imagine the freedom that comes when you stop letting their behavior control your thoughts, your emotions, and your energy. Imagine the peace that arises when you redirect your focus from what was taken to what can be built within yourself. Every heartbeat, every breath, every thought becomes a tool to strengthen your foundation. You begin to see that the only validation you need is your own, Their inability to acknowledge their wrongdoing loses its power. The chains of confusion and self-doubt fall away, and you stand firm, resilient, and clear. The hurt remains a part of your experience, but it no longer defines your potential, your peace, or your power. The truth is, the mind has a way of holding on to what hurts the most, replaying it, overanalyzing it, and creating chains that seem impossible to break. When someone hurts you and carries on like nothing happened, it is easy to become trapped in this loop, to allow your thoughts to feed the wound rather than heal it. You may find yourself caught in endless cycles of why and what if, your mind searching desperately for logic in a situation that has none. Every imagined explanation, every self-directed question only deepens the weight in your chest. The challenge is not to erase the pain, because it is real and valid, but to reclaim control over how long it has the power to occupy your mind. The more you ruminate, the more their actions dominate your internal world. The key is recognizing that your focus is your power. You can choose to let it feed confusion, or you can redirect it toward clarity, resilience, and self-determination. Holding on to overthinking only strengthens the influence of those who have hurt you. Each imagined scenario, each moment spent trying to rationalize their behavior becomes a tether that keeps you anchored to the pain. Yet, within this struggle lies the opportunity to assert control. When you consciously decide where your attention goes, when you decide which thoughts deserve your energy, you begin to dismantle the invisible chains that bind you. The mind, once trapped in a storm of uncertainty, begins to settle. You reclaim the authority to determine your emotional climate. Your peace is no longer dependent on someone else's acknowledgement. The moment of liberation comes when you fully understand that their behavior is irrelevant to your worth. The validation you seek has always been within yourself, and by claiming it, you begin to shift from reaction to mastery. This process requires discipline and intention. It requires observing your thoughts without being controlled by them, acknowledging your pain without being consumed by it, and redirecting your energy toward growth rather than fixation. Every time you resist the pull of overthinking, you reinforce your inner strength. Every time you refuse to let their actions dictate your emotions, you build resilience. You create a foundation so firm that no external action, no betrayal, no indifference can shake it. This is the moment where true empowerment begins, not in changing them, not in seeking their recognition, but in asserting your own sovereignty over your mind and heart. Imagine the liberation that comes when your thoughts are no longer a battlefield. Picture the clarity and strength that arise when your energy is devoted to your growth instead of their indifference. The act of choosing where your focus lies becomes a declaration of freedom. You are no longer at the mercy of someone else's inability to acknowledge your pain. Each thought directed towards self-mastery strengthens your foundation, fortifies your resilience, and sharpens your clarity. The mind that once replayed the hurt now serves you, guiding you toward empowerment, self-respect, and a peace that cannot be taken from you. The chains of overthinking break, and you step fully into the space of control, strength, and unwavering self-worth. The hardest part is often realizing that their actions, their indifference, and their silence do not need your permission to affect you, but they also do not have to define you. When someone hurts you and moves forward as if nothing happened, it can feel like your sense of justice has been denied, like the world is unbalanced and unfair. Your heart may scream for acknowledgement, and your mind may demand explanations. But the truth is that their inability to recognize the impact of their actions is a reflection of their limitations, not your worth. Every moment spent trying to make sense of their behavior only strengthens the hold they have over your emotional state. True freedom comes when you step out of the expectation that they should behave differently and reclaim authority over your own responses. This is where real empowerment begins, in the decision to no longer allow someone else's choices to dictate the landscape of your inner world. When you embrace this truth, the energy that once fueled frustration and despair can be redirected toward building resilience and inner strength. The hurt remains, but it no longer dominates your thoughts or dictates your emotions. Your mind, once consumed by the need for validation, now becomes a tool for clarity, focus, and personal growth. Every heartbeat that once throbbed with confusion now pulses with determination. Every thought that once spiraled into self-doubt now centers on self-respect and empowerment. By choosing where to place your attention, you step out of the shadows of their indifference and into a space where you are the guardian of your own peace. This process requires courage and deliberate effort. It demands that you face the discomfort head-on, observe your feelings without judgment, and consistently redirect your energy toward what strengthens you rather than what diminishes you. Each act of self-control, each refusal to allow their actions to dictate your state of mind, reinforces your foundation. Your boundaries grow stronger, your clarity sharper, and your resilience deeper. The more consistently you practice this, the less power their hurt holds over you until their indifference becomes irrelevant to your sense of self. The only validation that matters is the acknowledgment you give to yourself, the recognition of your own value and the commitment to protect your emotional well-being. Imagine the peace that emerges when you no longer allow their behavior to control your internal world. Picture the strength that comes when every ounce of energy spent on pain is now invested in self-mastery. The chains of expectation fall away, and you stand firmly grounded in the knowledge that your heart, mind, and life are yours to command. The indifference of others cannot diminish your worth. Their silence cannot erase your strength. The power to rise above, to reclaim your energy, and to protect your peace resides entirely within you. Every conscious choice to prioritize yourself over their neglect is a step toward unshakable resilience, unstoppable clarity, and enduring self-respect. Every time someone hurts you and moves on as if nothing happened, it challenges your sense of control and shakes the foundations of trust you have in the world. The instinct to demand answers, to seek justice, or to make them acknowledge their impact is strong, but it is also a trap that keeps you tethered to the pain. Your energy, your focus, and your peace are far too valuable to surrender to someone else's indifference. The realization that you cannot change their behavior and that their recognition is not required for your healing is liberating. This truth is not just a mental exercise. It is the key to reclaiming authority over your emotional life. You begin to see that the power to define your reality has always been yours, and that the person who caused hurt only controls the influence you allow them to have. Acknowledging that their behavior reflects their limitations rather than your value is the first step in reclaiming your freedom. Their ability to act as if nothing happened says nothing about your worth and everything about their capacity to confront consequences. When you internalize this, you stop seeking validation externally and start reinforcing it internally. Your sense of self becomes anchored in your own recognition of your worth rather than someone else's ability to acknowledge it. The mind, once trapped in cycles of doubt, begins to redirect toward clarity, self-respect, and intentional action. Each thought that once fueled confusion now reinforces your resilience, and every moment spent in reflection becomes an opportunity to reclaim strength. This process requires deliberate attention and conscious practice. It requires observing your emotional reactions without judgment, naming your pain without letting it consume you, and consistently choosing to invest energy in self-mastery rather than resentment. Every time you resist overthinking, every time you refuse to let someone else's indifference dictate your inner state, you fortify your emotional foundation. Boundaries become stronger, clarity sharper, and resilience deeper. Your mind and heart no longer serve the pain. They serve your growth, your purpose, and your unshakable sense of self. The indifference of others loses its power when you stop allowing it to occupy your mental and emotional space. Imagine the liberation that comes when your energy is no longer hijacked by their actions. Picture the peace that arises when the hurt is acknowledged, understood, and redirected into strength, rather than consumed by endless questioning. Each decision to protect your mind, to honor your heart, and to reclaim your focus is a declaration that you will not be diminished by anyone else's inability to acknowledge reality. Their silence cannot erase your clarity, their dismissal cannot weaken your resolve, and their hurt cannot define the measure of your worth. Every conscious step towards self-respect and internal empowerment fortifies your resilience, sharpens your awareness, and strengthens the unwavering truth that your life, your peace, and your power are yours to command. The hardest battles are often the ones fought in silence, within the mind and heart. When someone hurts you and continues as if nothing happened, the tension inside can feel unbearable. You may catch yourself questioning your worth, doubting your instincts, and replaying every moment over and over, searching for answers that will never come. The mind naturally seeks closure, but the truth is that the closure you seek is not in their hands. It exists only within you. Recognizing this is the turning point where you move from helplessness to empowerment. The moment you understand that their indifference is a reflection of their limitations, not your value, you reclaim the authority to govern your emotional world. Every thought, every heartbeat, and every decision becomes a choice to stand in your own power rather than surrender it to someone else's actions. This realization is the foundation of resilience. You cannot control how others behave, but you can control how you respond. Every time you allow someone else's inability to acknowledge your pain to dictate your mood, you give them power over your life, the strength to redirect your focus, to invest energy in growth rather than hurt, and to anchor your self-worth internally is what separates those who remain trapped in pain from those who rise above it. Your mind, once consumed by the need for validation from another, can now become a tool for clarity, self-respect, and intentional action. By consciously choosing where to place your focus, you reclaim the energy that was once drained by frustration, doubt, and resentment, transforming it into fuel for your inner strength. This transformation demands courage and consistent effort. It requires observing your emotions without judgment, naming the pain without letting it dominate you, and redirecting every ounce of energy toward growth, not fixation. Each conscious decision to resist overthinking, to refuse the pull of despair, and to reclaim your boundaries reinforces your inner fortitude. The indifference of others cannot touch the strength you cultivate within yourself. Clarity replaces confusion, resilience replaces self-doubt, and power replaces helplessness. Each act of intentional focus becomes a brick in the foundation of an unshakable sense of self. The person who hurt you may continue as if nothing happened, but you are no longer bound by their inability to acknowledge reality. Imagine the freedom that comes when you stop allowing someone else's behavior to dominate your mind. Picture the clarity and strength that emerge when every thought previously consumed by pain is redirected towards self-mastery and intentional growth. The chains of doubt and confusion fall away, and you stand firmly grounded in the truth that your worth, your peace, and your life are yours to command. Their silence cannot diminish your clarity. Their indifference cannot weaken your resolve. Their actions no longer have the power to dictate the shape of your emotional world. Each step you take to reclaim focus, strengthen boundaries, and honor your own value solidifies resilience, sharpens awareness, and reinforces the unwavering knowledge that your life belongs entirely to you. The moment you accept that their actions are a reflection of who they are, not a measure of your worth, everything begins to shift. When someone hurts you and moves forward as if nothing happened, it creates a pressure that can feel inescapable. Your mind may want answers, explanations, or apologies, but the truth is that none of these are necessary for your healing. Your peace, your clarity, and your sense of value do not depend on their recognition. The power to reclaim your emotional life exists entirely within you, and the moment you embrace this, the weight of their indifference begins to lift. You begin to see that the energy spent trying to make sense of their behavior is energy that can be redirected toward your own growth, resilience, and strength. Every moment spent reacting to their silence is a moment lost from building yourself. And recognizing this is the first step toward reclaiming authority over your life. When you take control of your focus, the influence of their actions diminishes. The mind, once trapped in cycles of questioning and doubt, can now be trained to support clarity, self-respect, and intentional growth. Every heartbeat that once throbbed with frustration can now pulse with determination. Every thought that once spiraled into despair can now center on self-empowerment. This is the transformative power of awareness, the ability to recognize that the hurt exists, to honor it, and to decide consciously how much space it occupies in your life. Your emotional energy is a resource, and the more you invest it in understanding your own worth rather than chasing someone else's acknowledgement, the stronger and more resilient you become. This is where boundaries take shape. Boundaries are not walls, they are declarations of self-respect. They protect your mind, your heart, and your peace. Each time you reinforce a boundary, each time you refuse to let someone else's indifference dictate your mood, you reclaim a piece of your power. You are no longer at the mercy of their inability to face consequences or acknowledge pain. You begin to build a foundation that is unshakable because it rests not on their behavior, but on your awareness, your choices, and your intentional focus. Clarity replaces confusion, resilience replaces self-doubt, and strength replaces helplessness. Imagine the liberation that comes when your mind is no longer a battlefield for someone else's actions. Picture the peace that arises when the energy once spent on frustration is now directed toward your growth. Their indifference no longer holds power over your heart, your thoughts, or your life. Each decision to honor your own worth and focus on self-mastery strengthens your resilience, sharpens your awareness, and solidifies the knowledge that your life is yours alone. No apology, no explanation, no acknowledgement from anyone can take this away. The freedom, the clarity, and the unshakable peace you cultivate are yours to command, entirely independent of their choices or actions. The pain of being hurt and witnessing indifference can feel endless, as if the world itself has turned against your sense of justice and fairness. Your mind searches for reasons, your heart yearns for acknowledgement, and yet the silence or dismissive behavior of others continues, creating an echo that can feel suffocating. But here's the truth that changes everything. Their inability to recognize the impact of their actions is a reflection of their limitations, not a measure of your worth. You are not diminished by their disregard. You are not less because someone else refuses to see your pain. The moment you fully accept this, the chains of expectation begin to loosen, and the energy that once fed frustration and despair can now be directed toward reclaiming your strength. Every thought that was once trapped in confusion can now serve clarity. Every heartbeat that throbbed with anger can now pulse with empowerment, and every moment spent dwelling on their indifference becomes an opportunity to fortify your resilience. Control lies in your response. You cannot command their acknowledgement, their apology, or their empathy, but you can command your focus, your perspective, and the value you place on yourself. Every choice to redirect your energy from despair to self-mastery weakens their hold on your life and strengthens your inner foundation. The mind, once consumed by questions and self-doubt, begins to operate as a tool for growth, reflection, and clarity. Each deliberate act of focus, each conscious decision to honor your worth over their indifference, creates a ripple of empowerment that cannot be interrupted by someone else's failure to acknowledge reality. This is where true emotional sovereignty is built, when you no longer need anyone else to validate your existence, when your peace is anchored in your own recognition of your value, and when the energy you once spent chasing answers is reclaimed to build the life you deserve. Boundaries become the strongest allies in this process. They are not defenses against the world. They are affirmations of your right to protect your mind, heart, and energy. Each boundary you enforce, each line you draw between their behavior and your emotional space, strengthens your sense of control and autonomy. Clarity replaces confusion, resilience replaces despair, and strength replaces helplessness. You are no longer bound to the rhythm of their indifference. The control they once had over your emotions, over your thoughts, and over your sense of value dissolves as you take full ownership of your internal world. Imagine the liberation that comes when your life is guided solely by your own focus and choices. Picture the peace that emerges when the energy that once fueled frustration and doubt now builds strength and clarity. Their actions cannot dictate the state of your mind. Their silence cannot diminish your resolve. Each moment you choose self-respect, intentional focus, and emotional independence reinforces your resilience, sharpens your clarity, and solidifies the unshakable truth that your life, your peace, and your power are entirely yours. Nothing external can take that away. The moment you accept that their actions do not define you, a profound shift begins within. When someone hurts you and carries on as if nothing happened, the natural response is to feel anger, confusion, or a desperate need for answers. These emotions are valid, yet they do not need to control the direction of your life. Every second spent dwelling on what they should have done, what they failed to acknowledge, or what they owe you is energy stolen from your potential to grow, to strengthen, and to rise above the influence of their indifference. Recognizing that their inability to see your worth has no bearing on your value is a liberating realization. It allows you to reclaim authority over your mind, your heart, and the course of your life. Their silence and dismissal lose their power the moment you stop giving them control. The true measure of strength lies in how you respond, not in how they behave. You cannot force acknowledgement, empathy, or understanding from anyone else, but you can determine how much space their actions occupy in your thoughts and emotions. Each conscious choice to focus inward, to honor your own worth, and to invest energy in self-respect and growth diminishes the influence of their indifference. Your mind, once a battlefield of doubt and frustration, begins to serve clarity, resilience, and intentionality. Each heartbeat that once carried confusion and despair can now carry purpose and determination. The pain remains, but it transforms from a weight that oppresses into a catalyst that strengthens. Every choice to reclaim focus and redirect energy builds resilience that is impervious to external disregard. Boundaries are the instruments of this transformation. They are not walls of separation. They are statements of self-respect. Each time you reinforce your boundaries, each time you refuse to let someone else's disregard dictate your emotional state, you solidify your control over your own life. Confusion gives way to clarity, doubt to certainty, and weakness to strength. You are no longer tethered to the fluctuations of someone else's indifference. The authority over your peace, your thoughts, and your emotional energy belongs entirely to you. Their failure to acknowledge their actions cannot diminish the resilience you cultivate when you take ownership of your internal world. Imagine the freedom that comes when your energy is devoted entirely to your growth and your self-mastery. Picture the clarity that arises when the chains of frustration, doubt, and overthinking dissolve under the power of conscious focus. Their actions no longer dictate your mental state, their silence no longer steals your peace, and their indifference cannot shake your sense of self. Every choice to honor yourself, to strengthen your focus, and to reinforce your boundaries expands your resilience, sharpens your clarity, and cements the unshakable truth that your life, your peace, and your power are yours alone. Nothing external can take this away, and every moment you embrace it, you rise higher, stronger, and more certain in the knowledge that your worth is untouchable, independent, and unwavering. Every moment spent dwelling on someone else's indifference is a moment surrendered to their control. When someone hurts you and continues as if nothing happened, the natural response is to fixate, to replay every detail, to search for explanations that may never come. This fixation, while understandable, only strengthens the invisible chains that tether your energy to their behavior. The true power lies in recognizing that their actions do not determine your value, your peace, or your trajectory. You have the capacity to reclaim every thought, every emotion, and every ounce of energy that has been hijacked by their indifference. The shift begins the moment you decide that your focus will no longer serve their narrative, that your mind and heart belong to you alone, and that your power is not contingent on their acknowledgement. Control is found in conscious choice. You cannot force someone else to recognize your worth or apologize for the hurt they have caused, but you can determine the extent to which their actions impact your life. Every instance of redirected focus, every moment spent reinforcing boundaries, and every thought oriented towards self-respect. And growth chips away at the hold of their indifference. The mind, once consumed by doubt and replaying past events, becomes a tool for clarity, strength, and intentional action. Each heartbeat that once carried the tension of frustration now beats with resolve. Every mental energy that was invested in questions and confusion can now fuel self-mastery and resilience. Pain transforms from a burden into a teacher. Every challenge a step toward fortifying the foundation of your emotional sovereignty. Boundaries are the instruments through which this transformation takes place. They are not barriers to the world, but statements of your commitment to protect your mind, heart, and energy. Each time you enforce a boundary, each time you refuse to let someone else's disregard dictate your emotional state, your inner power grows. Confusion is replaced by clarity, doubt by certainty, and weakness by strength. You are no longer tethered to the fluctuations of their behavior. The control over your peace, your thoughts, and your energy resides entirely within you. Their inability to face consequences or acknowledge the hurt they caused cannot diminish the resilience cultivated when you claim ownership of your internal world. Imagine the freedom that emerges when your energy is devoted entirely to your growth and self-mastery. Picture the clarity that comes when the chains of overthinking, frustration, and resentment dissolve under the power of deliberate focus. Their silence no longer dictates your emotional state, their indifference no longer steals your peace, and their actions cannot weaken your sense of self. Every choice to honor yourself, strengthen your focus, and protect your boundaries builds resilience, sharpens clarity, and cements the unshakable truth that your life, your peace, and your power are yours alone. Nothing external can take this away, and every conscious decision you make in alignment with your worth elevates your strength, clarity, and unbreakable sense of self.